the record button.
Side note, weed. I was like, yo, what's that indica all about? Because my whole life I was like, I always thought I was smoking indica heavy strains, and I was like, you know, it's too tiring. I want that sativa. Everyone says it's so uplifting, blah, blah, blah. So I got some of this OG Sunshine, which is like heavy sativa, and it did. I smoked it, and it was like it wasn't a hybrid. It was a whole different level. And then
I'm just telling you, just so you know, too, look in there. Put your left hand out again. No, towards me.
Oh,
got me?
Yeah. Well, I got a heavy indica, and it's not that like, I know I could kind of see the difference now to where it's not the tweaky head high of a sativa. It's like this, it's a totally different high, kind of.
It's more of a body high. It's a heavy high.
Yeah. And then I got this super, I mean, nobody but me would like it. It's like a super weak indica strain. I just like smoking, like people smoke cigarettes. I just like smoking. So anyway, it doesn't matter, whatever.
So you got high.
So I got high, but it's different. It's like I could smoke like I could smoke like hit after hit of indica so far it seems. Whereas like if I take a hit of sativa heavy shit, I'm all like, like I was in here like a few weeks ago.
Did your wife make you take a timeout on weed when you guys were trying to conceive?
No, but the first time I was like, you know, everyone you get nervous. You're like, is it going to work? What are we going to do? Boop, 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 boop. But we had to do this whole like gamut of like tests. You know, I had to poop and then like send it and mail the poop in to a doctor. Really? Yeah. I had to like, you know, spank it and put that in a little jar, and then I had to poop in something, and it was really weird, but I am like, you know, genetically like doing real good, and I had all my shit in order, you know? So, and then the second one, we were just like, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I also don't think that it holds a lot of weight.
No, I think maybe if you're doing anything to an nth degree, that like maybe, you know, you should probably not.
That's my output on it too. Like, look, my input, I mean, not output. You know, the reality is this, dude, and how far do you want to go? Because like when you want to talk about like carcinogens and stuff, like there's stuff in your food, there's stuff in the air that you're breathing, unless you're eating completely everything that's, you know, any kind of additive free, or the air that you're breathing, or, you know, the lotion that you put on your skin.
Are you exercising?
Or the shampoo that you're putting in your hair, all of that stuff. So like, why necessarily hone in on one particular
I mean, if you're Stony McGee and you're just like too faded, I guess there have been tests where it can mess with your sperm count, but like there's so many other things. You know, we were having complications when we first trying to get pregnant. And then we just did we went to the doctor, we ran all these tests, we did all the things they told me to do. For some reason, I'm supposed to eat more, like kimchi and kraut. What is that called? Fermented foods for some reason. What's that drink called? Something with a K. Kombucha, kraut. He's like, the K's. You got to have more K. You more fermented. I'm like, all right, whatever. So that was his big, you know. Anyway, whatever. Enough of this medical talk. Tasty Nuggets.
Tasty Nuggets are back.
Tasty little bite-sized morsels of information you could use in your daily marketing lives.
I thought you hate that word.
I do, but what else? Because what else are you going to call it, you know? Yeah. What are you going to say? You're marketing your business. I don't like saying it. I mean, content creation? Sure.
Yeah.
Same
so
shit, different too. Pile. Yeah. Today, we're gonna do a quick deep dive into writing a blog post. I don't think people really see the value in it until they see the value in it. I have clients that I told them, you know, there's a combination of things, but I've told them, you know, let's find out what keywords you're coming up for, and then build strength around that. And people don't realize the value until, like, I tell people, and I've said this before, I'll tell people 6 months to a year, but it's really 1 to 2 years it takes to, like, for stuff to really kind of come to fruition. True. If you're doing it consistently, it's true. And the best example I have, I recently got an email from somebody, and actually I checked the form submission that came in from this person. But basically, I have a client, a yoga teacher. She was one of my first clients, and she's like, you know, I help her out with stuff. She's on like the lowest tier. I don't even sell the monthly subscription that she's on anymore. Like she's just on it. So it's like friends and family. I put them on that because everybody's got to pay. But anyway, she made this big switch years ago. She wanted to have her actual name. The website was called Center Your Health before, and she wanted to have her name and she couldn't find her name. I was like, well, what about .yoga? Cause that was the thing. She's like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, I have OK7.us. And the reason I have that primarily is cause it's so short, but I also want to show people it really doesn't matter what the TLD is. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Whatever. Yeah.
And she wanted her name and I'm like, that's perfect. Whatever. So does it play into the SEO? Maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, we set up her site. She's actively writes on there. I SEO'd her site so that it's all, right. I went through all the business directory listings, making sure her information was correct. Her information was correct on socials. Everything was right. SEO'd it, sent her on her way. Well, I got a big ass thank you message from her because somebody typed in yoga near me. It was this big school. And the school was looking for somebody to lead a yoga program. So she got this huge job off of, off of her talents and stuff, but off of my talents as well, because I set up the site so that, I always tell my clients too, I'm like, you got to ask people how they found you. And she did it. How'd you find it? And she's like, well, I just Googled. She Googled and the site came up. Like incredible.
That's perfect.
Yeah. What?
I just saw a dentist who actually named their business Dentist Near Me.
That's good.
That's winning the SEO game right there.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it like you got to geotag and do all these things to your website because, when I type in dentist near me, it's going to be different than, say my cousin in South Carolina typing in dentist near me. So if you're going to have that, it's going to work to your advantage. Mm-hmm. I did a dentist website and I called it Kids Dentist NJ because that's not the name of the practice was Point Pleasant Dentistry for Children. So I'm like, well, we're not going to call it that.
Definitely not.
We want it to be easy to remember and we want it to have certain keywords in it. I didn't want to put children in there. I'm like kids dentist. That's kind of what people naturally type in when they're looking for a dentist, mm-hmm. Kids dentist. Mm-hmm. So we just went that route and it worked out pretty well for them. I talked about the eviction attorney.
Oh yeah. Last week.
I don't know if I talked about it. I guess that's why I brought it up, but they hired me to do 12 blog posts for them. So to cover basically a year or 6 months, depending on how they want to post stuff. I would suggest to them they do it for the year, but whatever. If they want to post it, I don't care. I'm thinking about putting that up somewhere too, the special, like whatever I'm charging him, just putting it out there and being like, hey, you want blog posts for an entire year? Here you could have them all done, SEO'd and scheduled and ready to go.
So when you're thinking about writing about a blog post, what are the contents that you should be gearing towards your blog post? Should you be writing about your business? Should you be writing about the genre itself? Should it be something completely random? Like, how does it all tie together?
It should never be random, ever.
So, we take a very interesting approach to blog posts here currently, and we're developing that. But one of the avenues that, and I think I've made mention in previous episodes before, is we like to concentrate on case studies.
Yeah.
And those case studies are a great way for people to not only, to have blog post content, but also be able to understand, outside of looking at a flat image or a video where they don't know our level of involvement with the project, what exactly we did. Case studies for us are a great way for us to express, our level of involvement in the project, as well as being able to put out that blog content. Does that make sense from a creative perspective?
Yeah, that's one of a few categories you could use, but it's the cool thing about, and the way I'm using my blog section on my site is to kind of train the people that are reading it or looking at it, or the ideal clients I want, on how I want to work with people. So when I write about stuff, I write about it from kind of that perspective of like what I think people should do. I mean, that's how I write about this stuff. So for you to do a case study, I think that's great, because then it runs people through the process of working with you, and like, this is what to expect, mm-hmm. and this is the outcome. every blog post you write, it should be service based. So whatever you've decided your services are for your business, all the blog posts should be around those services. It shouldn't be about anything but those services, in my opinion. And that's how I kind of handle it. Now, you could attack it from a lot of different angles. I mean, in your case, you could use that case study to go over the various services that people have, utilized you for that particular project. And then you could place those keywords in that blog post and do interlinking to other pages, to the service page specifically for those specific services. So stuff like that is great. I think for your business, even a blog post on what to expect, when shooting a music video, a post like that is going to let people know what to expect when shooting a music video. That's not only for them, but that's for you, so that when they come in, they're not complete, doofuses.
Lost in translation.
Yeah.
They understand what they should be prepared with when they come in, how they should allocate their time, make sure that they account for different variables. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, on a basic level, the way that I strategize it out is you look at your services, you base your blog post on those services, and then you do a little keyword search. There's obviously Google. You type in, say, for example, let's say it was just for me, like one of the services I offer is content creation. So I would do a Google search for, how to create content. And then I would see in Google at the bottom, it'll have all the suggested keyword phrases on the bottom. And that'll give you an indication of what are some of the more popular searches that people do in that area. A lot of people, for example, for the eviction attorney that I'm working with, when you type in notice to quit, which is basically just an announcement like, hey, you guys didn't pay your rent, we're going to send you a notice to quit. So notice to quit NJ. Let's say I type that into Google. Well, what comes up on the bottom is like notice to quit NJ during COVID. A lot of it was just about COVID. So that's interesting. That's something that's more, it's timely now, but, so that's another angle to look at it. Well, that's a whole other kind of blog post. You could write just about that topic alone. When it comes to, stuff that you're doing, name just one specific service that you're offering.
Well, let's talk about lighting.
Yeah. So, it might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes when you're writing blog posts, you might want to just explain, even if somebody's not going to use your service, because you want to write about your services, but you don't want to say, hey, these are my services, buy them. You want to write something that explains the service. So when it comes to lighting, you might want to do a search on what people are typing in when it comes to how to do lighting for a podcast, or how to do lighting when shooting a music video. And then from there, you would want to write a whole blog post. Obviously, you'd want to use images, and if you could, use video, but put something together like that. Now, what you're doing is you're showing other people how to do it, but what you're actually doing is putting something together that utilizes all the keywords and shows people how friggin' difficult it is. So you're giving away information for free, but the people that are going to take it and run with it weren't going to hire you anyway. Yeah. So from doing that, you could type in how to use lighting for a podcast. Go into Google, see what people are typing in on the bottom and the suggested keyword phrases. And then you could use this other site called Ask the Public, which is basically, I used to pay for the premium, but it's basically just a glorified aggregator of what people search for in Google. It's very helpful. You type in a phrase and then it'll show you this big wheel graphic of who, what, where, when, why, using the phrase. From there, you kind of want to break that down into a mini outline. You're going to have your intro paragraph, you're going to have your outro little paragraph, and then what are you going to say in between that? And what you want to cover in between that are other keyword phrases, maybe as the secondary heading. So, how how to use lighting for a podcast. Like, okay, what are some of the pitfalls? You might want to have that as a headline, and then write some of the mistakes people make. And then, right underneath that, like, here's the simple way to light a room, in order to look the best in a podcast. And then just cover. I mean, the thing is, for you're going to look at this shit and you're going to be like, oh, this is so basic. This is so stupid. But like, that just shows you how much content you have, because people want to know the basic stuff. To them, it's not stupid. They don't really understand it. So you really want to cover the things that to you seem really basic. And when you look at it that way, you have a ton of content. You want to make sure you're using the keyword phrases in the blog post, but you don't want to sound like a robot. It's really more important now than ever to make sure that you sound like a human when you're writing this stuff. I like to keep them between, I don't go under 500 words. So it's 500 to 1,000.
That's what I was just going to ask you. What's the depth of that? How many characters, how many words does it need to be on? It's
500 to 1,000. I've read on average it's above 1,000 now. So you can go longer, but just don't, it's not like high school where you're like double spacing and like adding extra words. Therefore, ergo.
Apparently you don't double space after a period anymore.
For
did you know that?
I did. It's based on I had a discussion with a secretary a few years ago about that, how you don't have to do that. I do it still, but not in the web, because you don't, anyway, it doesn't translate on a web page. Anyway, so what you want to do now above that, I've talked about geotagging your images, making sure they're named correctly. If you really want to knock it out of the park, you're going to make a video about the blog post, and you're going to embed the video into the blog post. So you're not only writing about it, you have images about it, and you have a video, and the video itself in YouTube links back to the blog post.
But like in the video, what does the video essentially encapsulate if you're writing it? Do you you could literally say the same stuff in the video that you have in?
Yes. It could be video. If you want to be, I could use my video production background, but you might want to storyboard it out, as silly as that sounds. But make sure you take a bunch of videos of the different, like the 3-point lighting and how you're setting it up, moving around. And then you could basically just kind of read the blog post in the video. Because most people, 99% of the people out there are not going to read the blog post, let's be honest. And 99% of the people aren't going to watch the video. And 100% of the people aren't going to read the blog post and watch the video. So you're kind of just utilizing content that you're using the content in a way that you're going to grab people that are more prone to video. You're going to grab people that are more prone to reading. And you're also going to grab the search engine, like the bots that are out there for the keywords that you're using. And then it also makes it easier for you to share on certain platforms. Obviously, you can't share a YouTube video on Instagram, but you can share a little clip of the video and say link in bio, or you could take a screenshot of the video and then say link in bio, link back to the blog. What we're doing now with one client is we're taking their YouTube video, we're chopping it up into little videos, and instead of just sending it back to YouTube, we actually just created a whole blog post with the transcription of the video on a page, on a blog post, and linking those little clips, like say through LinkedIn, those little clips are linked back into the blog post. So there's a ton that you could do, but on the very basic level, start with your services, research the keywords. You could even ask people out there like, hey, what would you like to know about this? It's really not as helpful to ask family and friends, because family and friends like kind of suck when you're trying to do things like this, in my experience. What's really helpful is to kind of go out onto Twitter or go onto groups or anything like that and ask people that way. Discord. They're way more engagement. Yeah, you can go on the Discord. Stuff like that. Also, if you want, you find the keyword phrases that people are typing in, type them in, and then look at what the blog posts that are on the top that are coming in. A lot of times it's just because they're really old. So, people, it's this reoccurring thing where people type it in, they see it, they click on it, they read it, they see it, they click on it, they read it, and then it's just permanently at the top because it's so old. The information's great and it covers the stuff. A lot of the time what happens is, there's room for improvement. You could read a blog post and say, wow, this is really outdated. Why is it on top? And then you could kind of just make that blog post, but make it even better.
And redo it.
Yeah, make it so that it is this eviction client. He handed me his blog post. They were like, I mean, at best 100 words long. So what I'm going to do, basically, I sent him the first draft today of the first one. I took the idea of what he had in it, and I took it and I just expanded it into it's over 500. I mean, it's a tough notice to cease is a tough thing to write about. So the way I changed his title. He said to, what did he call it? Oh no, it was notice to quit, which is different than notice to cease. I know too much about eviction attorney stuff now at this point, but it was notice to quit, and the name of his title, the blog post that he wrote, was to quit or not to quit. And that's not very helpful from an SEO standpoint. That's going to be your H1 tag on a page. That's going to be the title of the blog post. That's going to be the meta title of the page that the blog post is on. So what I did was I added the word eviction in the beginning of it. So it's eviction notice to quit or not to quit. So it sounds kitschy, but like the beginning of it is actually SEO value because it says eviction notice to quit. So it's the notice to quit is one phrase, and then it says eviction notice. So like that's another phrase to use. So that's how I changed the title of it. And then I just broke down what he was saying in a longer format using what I researched that was out there. I broke down what he wrote into a few different sections, and then I searched for each different section on those those key points that he was making. So it's really helpful to write an outline. Like I was surprised at how much like grammar school is actually helping me. It helped me in college, which was amazing. It helped me in high school. But stuff that I learned in grammar school and in high school, it really it's still stuck with me. But writing an outline for it makes it so much easier, to write this stuff out.
It's funny. I want to kind of roll back a little bit to something that you talked about before about like noticing that there was a blog post that is successful but dated.
Yeah.
And you could do it better. And we've taken that approach. We're pursuing that approach with video content.
Mm-hmm.
As in, let's make it as simplistic as maybe something like an unboxing.
Oh, dude, people love unboxings.
Right. So you have unboxings, and somebody may have multiples of these unboxing videos out there, but you'll notice that the audio quality is poor, or the video quality is really poor. So you can just come back. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Like, I'm always one for coming up with original concepts, creation, right? But you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You can just use the wheel.
Yeah.
Right. So we look for maybe things that don't have a high volume of video, and then find that most of the video that is involved in that is poor. Mm-hmm. And then we can come back and we can redo that video.
Oh, yeah.
With higher video quality or audio quality, or maybe touch on points that we thought were missing in that content as they were putting it together. But, full circle to what you just said about having an outline, and it applies to, I'm sure, not only blogging, it applies to podcasts, it applies to live streaming, it applies to so many different things, is like pre-plot your content before you try to fill out the remainder of it. Which we don't always live by that here on Tasty Nuggets. We come in, we have some ideas, but we don't have the whole show.
Sometimes we
out.
do, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we, go in a different direction.
It's so funny because for me in this particular area, I'm very weak. Like, I am not a writing person. I don't like to write. I'm not talking about like basic writing. I'm talking about like writing content or copy. Like, that is not something that I want to be doing on a daily basis.
No.
So what do you have for people now? In our situation is a little bit different because we have staff members that are going to do that. But what do you say for the smaller person that, or one man entrepreneur, and I don't mean man as a physicality, I mean a one person entrepreneur, I don't want to trigger anybody, one person entrepreneur doing their business, mm-hmm. don't have, and I know this is going to frustrate you when I say this, doesn't have a budget to allocate towards their marketing needs, which we know that's a big, big mistake. What do you have for advice for somebody that isn't a great writer, that has a business? Maybe it's a great business. starting at the ground floor, launch their website, trying to push up their SEO results and get found and put this blog content together. How should they go about putting together some sort of blog timeline and implementation process?
I mean, if you don't have a budget to spend on marketing, you're kind of screwed.
You shouldn't be in business because
you're kind of screwed. Listen, if you want to take, I was telling somebody this today. It's taken from Timeless Advice. If you've ever read any of the classic business books out there, but you're either working on your business or you're working in your business. So if you're working on your business, that means that you're taking care of the marketing, you're writing the blog post, you're making sure all the social media is scheduled, you're doing all that stuff. If you're working in your business, that means you're actually doing what you want to do, and you're going out there, you're getting new stuff, you're taking care of the jobs that are there. So there's these two sides, of the coin, and if you don't have the budget to, you got to have some kind of budget.
Oh, no, listen, let's be realists here. Okay. There are people that especially post this whole crazy thing that has happened in the last 2 years that maybe have launched their own business from home. They're on very limited funds. Matter of fact, they may have no funds whatsoever. They may be pulling from a very minimal or moderate savings that they have. And right now, the only way that dream can come to fruition, I know this is anti kind of everything that any kind of marketing or creative agency is going to be for, but really only have enough money to pay their household bills with the aspiration that this business that they're launching is going to help them generate that additional income. Because in a realistic, real life scenario, there are people out there for sure that don't have an additional $100, and I'm just throwing out any kind of monetary increment here, don't have $100 to pay somebody to write a blog post or help with their marketing, and they really are hedging all of their dreams with minimalistic budget at all, maybe $0.
Well, yeah. If you don't have a budget, you don't need to. And okay, if you don't have a budget and you're not a good writer, but you have something you're passionate about and you're super knowledgeable, then take your phone out and make a video. You don't have to. If you're not strong in something or you don't feel comfortable in it, then find things that you are comfortable with or strong with. So, you could either make a video, and you should be making videos explaining what you offer or interesting stuff that surrounds your business. You could also take those videos and transcribe them and then turn it into content, but you have to have that talent. All the blog posts for OK7, I write them all, and I don't have a problem writing them. It's just all the stuff, that I do. So I just write about it, and I can write at a pretty good level. So, and then on top of that, if I need somebody to edit it, I have content writers. I can have them, they're working with the clients, but I could, have them help me as well if I need to, but so far so good. So if you don't have the budget for it, then use the phone, because everybody has a phone now. Use your phone and make video content and make it to the best of your ability. And as you go, you're only going to get better if you do it. You're not going to get better at it if you sit at home and dream about doing it. So what I would suggest doing is if you don't have the budget to hire anybody else, take out your phone and start making videos yourself. You could also, it's always so difficult to sit by yourself and kind of come up with content. It's sometimes difficult to do that. Or for
I think
people
it's
to
really
talk.
difficult.
Yeah.
Actually, it's easier to tell it to somebody and then they can objectively
or have what I was getting was have a conversation. If you record your conversation with somebody and they're asking you questions about their business, a lot of my business is me pulling out of the clients the information I need in order to make sure that their information is getting out there. So I will interview them, record it, and then transcribe it.
That's
which
a
is
really good idea.
Oh yeah, that's the super alpha secret sauce I just gave away. It's if you record that and then transcribe it, that is, it's going to sound natural. You're definitely going to reach 500 words plus, especially if you're hanging out with me. and it's going to lead to more ideas into the future. It's painstaking and it's kind of, tedious, but you got to do what you got to do.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on the premise of, as soon as you do have some sort of monetary cash flow, to invest it into your marketing plan, because you're selling yourself. Like if you don't, and there's all these sayings out there, right? If you don't invest into your marketing or have money for your marketing, then you shouldn't even be in business, or are you even in business, or whatever. But I think that at the very ground floor level, from somebody that's launching a business, just got their LLC, last month, 6 months ago, whatever, there's a stage in that, there's a point for them where they are the holder of all responsibilities. And although they may be great at what they do, they may be a great cameraman, a great editor, a great graphic designer, whatever that may be, they may just not have that skill set that you need to create the content that you're talking about in this blog thing. And that's the only reason why I brought it down to that level. Mm-hmm. Now, ultimately, we can get into the argument of, or not even argument, but the I guess the saying of, there are business owners and there are entrepreneurs, right? And what do you want to be? Do you want to work for yourself, or do you want to have other people work for you, right? Yeah. Like, do you want to do all of the work yourself, or do you want to have, because you're never, I guess I'm venturing on thin ice by saying this, because there's probably going to be somebody out there that can contest what I'm saying. But honestly, I don't know any really, really, really successful business that is a sole proprietor. They do all the departments, and they're very successful.
Yeah. I've made more money by spending more money. Like, I have a bookkeeper, I have an accountant, I have content writers, I have social media manager, I have coders. It's funny to see on your P&L, you see how much money went out, and you're just like, holy crap, I can't believe I spent that much money.
And it's hard, because I think a lot of people get in the mindset, and I know this is kind of subsequent of what our initial point was here, but I think a lot of people get in the mindset of, is if I can do it myself, I can save that money, and I don't have a lot of money to put out. So any dollar that I can save is a dollar of longevity towards my business, that I could stay in business longer.
It's time versus money.
Yeah, that's not a successful.
It's not sustainable.
No, it's not. You're going to overextend yourself. Everything's going to fall through the cracks, and you really need to invest in people. And again, I know this is off of topic of blog, but you really need to invest in people, whether it's OK7 Creative Agency to actually create that content for you and help you disperse your blog and understand that SEO stuff, or it's Wreck'd Productions and creating the actual digital media itself, getting the video and the audio files. But eventually there needs to be a threshold of where your success level comes in, based off of how much money you're going to put out. And rather than hold on to that $250,000 because it's going to keep you in business for a year and a half.
$250,000?
Right. You take $200,000 of that $250,000, invest it into payroll for people that are going to work for you.
That's a lot of money.
And then make that money back for you. And it's really hedging a risk, but risks pay off in business.
Sometimes.
Mostly. Calculated risks.
Yeah, I mean, it's wherever you are in business, but realize you're not going to be able to sustain. I was burnt out maybe a few years ago, man, time flies. But I was taking on too much, and I was doing too much of the work, and I've actually hired more people and then scaled back, got rid of some of the dead weight or some of the smaller clients. Some of them stuck with me. I have these $20 a month clients that are just there because they were there from the beginning, that are just there. And somebody was like, well, why don't you just get rid of them? And I'm just like, well, they're paying me $20 a month to host their site, and I just got to make sure it doesn't blow up. They could take it, and I tell them, I'm like, yo, you guys could go if you want, but I'll host it, $20 a month. I think Squarespace is undercutting that, but I think it's $16 a month, or it's under $20 a month. But guess what? I'm still a human being that you could actually talk to and bounce ideas off of. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those people, though, I like the pain in the ass people, I just got rid of. I kept the cool ones. And that there's got to be these calculated moves that you have where you're running your business and you decide, how much time should I be spending on it versus how much will I make by paying somebody else and then having
Look
more
at Rob
time.
Dyrdek. You know who Rob Dyrdek is,
Oh yeah, he's
right?
crushing it every day.
He if you look him up, there's a video out there and he says he literally delegates 30% of his own time towards his business.
Yeah.
70% of he lives.
Yeah.
30%. This is a really successful gentleman. And I think we've all been
super
like,
successful.
I've been there, you've been there, I've been there. I've been, I've tried to do all of the roles. I've been exhausted. I've been stretched thin. We've all been there, and you think that you're going to, save a couple dollars here and there.
You lose your mind.
Yeah. And you lose a lot more. And you actually harm yourself more than you help yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming to the realization I really was guns blazing into 2022, and I scheduled out all this stuff. I had all these plans. It's all there. It's all ready to go. But I'm falling short because I was trying to do it myself because I wanted to see. It's been so long, but I wanted to see what it was like, and it's really difficult to do. So I'm reevaluating how I'm handling it now, and I'll probably bring my social media manager in to actually get it organized because it's not the content. I could come up with content for days. It's just the organization and the execution of it. So that's where they come in. There's Rita's a superwoman where she can like organize stuff and be like, all right, we need, this is what you need to do, or this is how you have it. I have all the ideas, I'm going to make all the graphics because that's what I'm going to do. I just need somebody to like come in and help me organize it. And sometimes that's maybe all you need is like, if you can't afford to have somebody do it on a regular basis, you should really consider getting a consultant to just tell you what you need to do. And then that just gives you a blueprint, and just follow the blueprint. Don't argue with it. I've had people where I had a therapist friend of mine where, I was at, she wanted help with content writing and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, well, these are your services. This is what you have. She's like, well, I don't want to write about my services. I'm like, excuse me? She's like, well, no, I just want to write about what's on my mind. And I'm like, hey, here's a newsflash. No one gives a shit what's on your mind. You're not friggin', you're not like some kind of news anchor. Not that anyone cares what on their mind, but like write about your services so you could get more business. Nobody cares what you had for breakfast today. You're a therapist. Like write about therapy. I mean, geez. Anyway, needless to say, I didn't work with that person. First of all, because they were a friend, but second of all, because you could tell right off the bat that they weren't going to do what they needed to do. So like, whatever. Yeah. It's got. I'm getting to the point too where I'm going to have, it's so boring. It's the most boring, stupid part about online marketing, but having like the whole funnel set up, the whole landing page set up. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have that set up, and I'm going to have these PDFs and videos to kind of give away as incentive to sign up for a newsletter or to sign up for some kind of a service. I'm getting to the point to where I'm going to have that all set up as well. You want to automate as much of it as possible, but there's all these things you have to set up, and sometimes you just got to bounce ideas off of anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah. I mean, the most successful person always surrounds themselves with people that are more intelligent and qualified.
Yeah. Find some there's so many retired people out there. Find yourself an old geezer that's like been around and like knows a thing or two about not maybe your particular trade, but just the pitfalls of running your own business.
I think it's an interesting landscape now, since the, what do they call it? The Great Resignation, there's a lot of people that are working on side hustles.
Oh man, their side hustles become their main hustle.
So I mean, you may be able to find somebody in that. And I think on the smaller level, it's always easier to contract out work, than obviously ascertain W-2 employees. That's a whole nother ball game. So like, I think there's also for the struggling person that's just launching or whatever, going that route and having a company that can contract that work for you, like OK7, right? Where I could say, hey, Andrew, I don't have the capacity to bring in a W-2 employee. I really want you to take care of, help me write my blogs, give me a cost for this. And then, and there's pros and cons to everything, right? So for me, one of the reasons that, and this is specific to my business in particular with Wreck'd and, the constant day-to-day and turnover of clients that come in through in and out, I very much weighed hiring an agency to handle our marketing needs versus having our own internal W-2 employee to do that, right? And one of the issues, and again, that I think, and I'm not, that I struggle with for my business is that for us, we have so much stuff going on that by having an agency come in and do this, we would still have to gather so much material for them. We would still have to disperse that material to them. We would have to explain the material to them. We would only have such a small learning period where we sit down, they learn a little bit about the business, but essentially they're not here on a day-to-day, so they don't understand the nuances, or they're not here to grab the BTS when it's happening, right? We would still have to grab the BTS, then email it or Dropbox it or Google Drive it to them or whatever that would be. But my business is in a different position where, we were able to allocate towards having our own in-house people to take care of those things because of the amount of work that happens in here. But I think from a launching perspective of somebody that's like, okay, I'm at that point, I can write my own blogs, but we've gotten a little bit busier. I think it's time to pursue something like an agency like OK7, where you can say, dude, here's where my business is at thus far. Please, let's do an analysis of my website. Tell me what's missing. Help me fill in the gaps here. I don't know how to write 12 blogs for the year. Can we sit down and do that? And
are you asking me? Because yes, we can do that.
I am not a blog writer, man. That's not my thing. But there is huge value in blogging. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me, you're the expert in this field, there's a huge value to somebody blogging about you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And doing that. What do they call that? Link backs?
Oh yeah, if you could have like external links, like linking back to your site. It's a weird gray hat area right now, because there's link farms, there's like ways that people doing it, but there's also ways of having it so that, say, you get somebody to write about you on, like, let's say a bit like Huffington Post or BuzzFeed or something, and you could figure out a way of having your some kind of article or some kind of blog post written and have it on that site and then link to your site. That would be kind of huge. Obviously, that's like a big example. There's smaller examples about it, but you could also, another strategy for something like that is you reach out to, if you do like a search for certain keywords and you find certain blogs, or you do a search on social media and you find people active on certain subjects that have a pretty good, decent following, you could reach out to them and see if they would be willing to, like, do some kind of collab or do some kind of thing where they could interview you. There's so many different things, ways of approaching it now, where it doesn't even have to be a blog post. You could reach out to people that run podcasts and be a guest on that,
nuggets.
Yeah. So, there's so many, there's ways of doing it. It's just a matter of
doesn't even have to be a podcast. Like Kevin Chevroletti is coming in here next Thursday to do an interview about Wreck'd.
That's awesome.
So, that's a great way for us to be able to reach out our fingers to his market.
Yeah, he's a local influencer. He's got a pretty decent following. Mm-hmm. People are always commenting on his stuff, and his engagement's really high. So having him on, or having him in here and then featuring you guys, that's definitely going to bring in.
It's not a blog post, but it's
but it could be. Yeah, you could take that content, that video, whatever he's doing, you could turn it into a blog post real easy, and then embed the video, into the blog post. I think he does a lot of. I think the videos, I'll have to see how he formats them, but I think it's on Facebook or Instagram mostly.
He does Instagram and.
He does Facebook and Instagram mostly,
think,
and a little LinkedIn.
Shout out to Kev, but I am going to give him a really awesome piece of technical advice, just from my expertise, and just that will help him evolve his, what do you call those? Spotlights, just on a technical side. Nothing to do with the content that he's creating, but the actual equipment.
Yeah.
I have something in my brain that's, low dollar that would really help.
Like a lavalier or something?
Yeah.
Is it really? I got it right?
Yeah, there are some cheaper alternatives.
There's like a
right
wireless
now.
Or a Bluetooth?
There is. Rode makes a dual transmitter single receiver unit that is USB-C. You could either hook your own lapel into it, not to get technical on the show. You can hook your own lapel into it and then, clip it on lapels like the little microphone. It's a little cube. Or you can actually
saw that.
Put that
How much
on
are they? A
yourself.
couple $100?
$300.
That's not bad.
No, for microphones,
yeah,
that's nothing. You can go USB-C right out of the receiver unit into your cell phone. So if you're an Instagram person and you're doing Instagram lives or Instagram like he's doing right now, and again, this is, believe me, this is constructive criticism. He's going out, he's doing great things. His phone is very distant from where they're actually sitting or standing or whatever, so that they can get a wider view of things. And in order to do that, they're shouting in order to get the microphone.
It just sounds so cavernous when you do it.
Sounds very far away, right? Yeah. A simple trick like that.
I mean, he's come a long way from when he started. I remember watching one where it was a food truck and he's holding the phone himself, and the truck's on, you can't hear him. But like that's kind of how you learn, is by doing it. Yep. So he's definitely come a long way from that. But yeah, lavalier would be, I think, the next step.
We were just watching our videos early, like some of our, there are videos and I'm like, oh, dude, these things, they pain me so much to see, but leave them up because it shows level of growth.
Yeah, exactly. And content's content, some people don't even notice the things that you're paying attention to.
You're your own worst critic.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. So anyway, back to blogs. I always get sidetracked, and you and I are both the kings of being sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered it. I mean, that's
They're
pretty
important.
much
Do them. Write them.
I mean, the other thing too is like my brother was, he's old school. He was like, oh, I want to set up this thing. He falls into this trap that a lot of people do, which is failure to launch mode. I need to set up all of this stuff before I actually do what I want. When the reality is, just do what you want. So he was talking about, I need to set up a website with a blog, the WordPress, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, dude, just go on Medium. You could write on Medium. It's right there, and then just link. That's what a lot of techie dudes are doing now. It's like the blog spot of today. You could go on something like that and write, and then from your website just connect to your Medium account. Do something. I'm pretty sure it's free. I could be wrong, but it's certainly a lot easier than jumping through all these hoops and like designing a site and all that stuff. Like, it's really a pain in the ass, and you got to get to the point where you're just making content. Content is so much more important than all that other stuff.
Every day it's more and more important.
Well, yeah, and I once I told him that, I was like, oh, that's so easy. And of course, he hasn't done a single thing since I made it even easier for him to actually do it.
Now, I'm going to say one more thing on this podcast before we wrap it up.
What?
It wouldn't be a Tasty Nuggets if I didn't. What is up with the crypto market, man?
What do you mean, man?
Oh, man. It was
Russia's fake invading Ukraine. Haven't you heard?
It was so good. Like last week, everything
this is how it is,
shot
man.
up.
Zoom out.
You looked at it and I was like, ooh.
You can't help. The markets are affected by the other markets. So you can't get away from that. That's how it is. And then you have this FUD, like fear, uncertainty, doubt, like all this news coming out about war is going to tank everything. When the stock market tanks, it's going to tank crypto. When things are going good, when people are making money, that's when they buy dumb coins. When things are going bad, people pull all their money out and they just want to hoard it,
Be in for the long haul, man.
I mean, yeah, and buy quality stuff like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Just stack that. The other stuff is all super speculative.
I'm a novice compared to you, but I have come, and I don't know how you feel about this. This is kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? A loaded statement. Bitcoin's dead.
Okay.
Bitcoin's dead.
Okay.
ETH is everything.
Okay. Put all your eggs in one basket. Let me know how that goes. Let me know how it goes.
We'll see which one works out, but
Bitcoin's a store of value. Ethereum is a whole, a whole other ball of something, but Bitcoin is going to be, it's not going anywhere, man.
Which, by the way, did you watch the Super Bowl?
No.
Okay. Did you hear about the Coinbase commercial?
Yeah.
With the QR code?
Yeah.
OG screensaver when it hits the corner,
and then people scanned it and the app crashed.
It was genius though.
Yeah, they got a lot of publicity.
You couldn't
and even
resist it.
Well, this is a new thing that people don't realize, and a perfect example of this new or not so new kind of marketing is let's talk about Kanye West for a second. feuding with Pete Davidson, trying to get his wife back. Oh, I'm mad at Kid Cudi. He's not on the thing anymore, even though Kid Cudi said they talked about it a month earlier and it wasn't a big deal. All these people are mad, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? He's got an album coming out. Do you think that's a coincidence that he's doing all this crazy stuff?
Bad PR is good PR.
Yeah, so Coinbase did this thing with this stupid thing and it crashed. It's still good PR, you know? I don't think... I can't imagine a company setting all that up just to let it fail like that. Like that's like overwhelming. I mean, and also you get to brag and say we were the #1 app, and it was so huge that it broke. You know, like where's the story in it if it's so huge and everything went great?
I use Coinbase.
Yeah, I used it in the past. You know, I don't use it anymore.
Did you hear about the Larry David commercials?
Yeah, they're funny. That's the first commercial I've watched in a long time where I'm on YouTube and I saw Larry David and I watched it, and it's pretty
interesting
funny.
to see crypto on commercials, man.
It's here. It's mainstream.
Not going away.
It's not going away. It might take till 2025 till we see a next bull run, but it might be this spring. So anytime between this spring and 2025.
I hope so, because I would gladly accept the extra money. Thank you.
I mean, just hold on to what you got and don't be scared. And then I feel bad when like people contact me and they're like, "What do I do with this Shiba Inu?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. You kind of missed it." Like by the time you heard about it, like look at the chart. It was at its peak, and I've been guilty. I have a stack of stories of how I've lost. You know, I had the potential to be up $15,000 and like lost it all. So like I have stories like that of doing crazy stuff with DeFi.
Put your head down for 6 months and learn crypto.
Yeah, go for it. Good luck. You'll be nuts by the end of it. Yeah, like I don't do the day trading stuff. My brother's all into the day trading stuff. I can't.
It's too much work, man. You really gotta have 16 monitors and you're watching everything.
The funny thing is he puts these orders in and he's like, "Oh, look, I missed it by, 5 cents." And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you just like take your calculations and then put it lower, or like take your calculations and put it a little higher? Why are you marking it and then just leaving it like that?" That's where my brain, maybe he's more mathy than I am. I'm like, I don't understand that stuff, but it's a whole different, if you want to do that. I've signed up for courses and then I got my money back because I got into the course and I'm like, I don't have time to day trade cryptocurrency right now. It would be great, and I think maybe if in 5 years I could figure out how to make money off it, but I don't have the time to do that kind of stuff.
I put money in for the long haul into things that I think that are viable, that are good projects, that are going to be worth something. Neither of those two do I own any of, because I think they're both worthless. No offense to anybody that has them.
Same thing with like, people ask me about NFT stuff. My brother brings up NFT stuff, and it's just like the market is so flooded with garbage right now. I tell people, I put this thing up on Twitter where I was like, the reason I call myself an NFT expert is because I tell everyone I know not to buy them. Because, that's the only advice that you could give out and be honest with people. Like
the FOMO isn't that real for me on that. Like, I know that it's viable. There are so many elements that are pushing back in that market right now that make me not want to jump in. One, obviously, the most thing that's covered in the news element is the scams, projects
so bad,
taking money and then closing shop and running. That's going to happen. That could happen with anything that's deregulated. So there's no, stopping that from happening. However, like my issue right now is I'm not seeing the areas where they're really going to be valuable jumping on board. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of pushback from game developers. There's a lot of pushback from gamers. There's not.
Oh, they're ridiculous.
Yeah,
they're pushing back on these big studios, and the studios are like folding, or there's like these little marketplaces where they're like, "Wait, we're not doing this NFT stuff," and then all these nerds come out and they're like, "Good, it's bad for the environment." Yeah. I'm like, "Oh my god, you drove here and
go
what?"
Into the environment portion of it.
It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Unless there's a real. I could save this for another episode, but for me, there needs to be some sort of real potential value, which I think that there is.
By the time it's there, it's too late.
I understand, but right now there's so much, like you said, there's so much flood in the market. Is where can you throw some bucks that are really gonna
sandbox?
It's gonna be the same thing
I want a piece. I want to plot my land in the sand. That's why I'm starting to get funding going. I want a building.
Hard. So expensive, man.
I'm gonna get some funding together.
It's super expensive.
Yeah. I don't know which one's gonna be the big hit though, Sandbox or Decentraland.
You know what I mean?
No, but I want to actually buy the 3 ETH plot of land where it's like I've got my land.
First of all, there's nothing near any like central areas.
It don't matter.
Now.
It's
there's
all
only like these little tiny pieces around all over the place.
It's all imaginary anyway.
Go on for infinity.
I mean,
so, like,
technically,
what the fuck?
I think that I don't think they'll open. Maybe they will open it up more, but it's just gonna until it's all like a metropolis all stacked up and like there, then and it's not real, so like things are far away from each other. You could kind of just pop in and pop out, I imagine. I've only been in Decentraland. I don't think you could actually walk around the sandbox yet, can you?
Well, you can. I have done it in Decentraland.
Yeah, I did Decentraland. I met some guy. I met this nice guy. He owns a shoe store in Decentraland.
It's really crazy.
It is. It's fun to talk to people. I want a building really where we could do the podcast. So that's what that's the only reason I want land in Decentraland or I want land in Sandbox, is just because I want to have like an office space. I think it's just hilarious to do that. Then you could do events. It's that would be funny. But we'll see. We'll see if I can get the funding together to get my building. Tasty nuggets.
Keep your hand out of my screen, sucker.
Boom.
All right, we're out.